I feel angry because she was right. And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was totally right. And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length.
You dog me, pal.
Oh, man. I have no idea why Jake Tapper agreed to do this interview, but I'm very glad he did. Really now, there is no way that Jake Tapper can get out of this looking good. Everybody sees through it. There was a cover-up on behalf of Joe Biden, and Jake Tapper was an integral part of that. Not only does Megyn Kelly call him out for the absurdity of the fact he's selling a book on something that he helped to cover up, but then she eviscerates him when he tries to pathetically defend himself.
Sounds good to me.
Knowing what I know now, obviously, I feel tremendous humility about my coverage, that Lara Trump interview, for example, etc.
We'll
She saw something that I did not see at the time, 100%. And I own that. I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters
But then he wasn't.
thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
Yeah, and real quick, before he responds, I just have to point out, I'm sure everybody else notices this, but he said that Lara Trump noticed something that Jake Tapper somehow missed as the professional journalist. Okay, that is an obvious BS excuse. I've been calling it out from the beginning. That's absurd to believe, first of all. Everybody noticed. It wasn't just Lara Trump. To the point that the media had to have that huge propaganda effort to, one, demonize or discredit anybody who was calling out, and noticing that Biden was having this obvious decline. The narrative was that they're conspiracy theorists, they're far-right nut jobs, and that's what the media went with. The Lara Trump interview, Jake Tapper was just sort of strengthening that narrative by treating Lara Trump like she was insane for suggesting that Biden could be having a mental or cognitive meltdown. But no, Jake Tapper just somehow missed it. The hard news, just the facts, professional journalists somehow missed what everybody else noticed. And Megyn Kelly's pointing out here that while Biden said he'd be transparent, he wasn't at all. And Jake Tapper, who could clearly see all these things happening, ignored it and didn't call it out. And so clearly the excuses he's giving right now are total BS and should not be believed.
That's true, but I did ask him about his age and the fact that the American people had concluded that even though he said whenever anybody brought up the subject of his age, watch me. And I said,
yes,
they're watching you and they are concerned that you were too old for this job.
But you know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
That's correct, I didn't. And like I said, I feel humility about my coverage. I mean, it's not like I was asking him his favorite movie or his favorite color. We were talking about Putin. We were talking about other issues of national importance.
You don't feel that much humility because you're now trying to sell a book as if you were on the outside looking in at this cover-up that was occurring, when in reality, it couldn't have happened without Jake Tapper and his cohorts. Not just at CNN, but at MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, PBS, NPR. All these news networks work together in order to make this cover up happen. And so for Jake Tapper to say he's feeling humility when he's hawking a book is just another absurdity and more proof these people hate you. They think you're stupid. They think they can literally just say whatever they want and get away with it. And this is just more proof of that.
But yeah, I mean, of course, I've said, I look back at my coverage with humility. And I wish I did cover the issues of age and acuity, but
No, I'm sorry. But this was more than that. And even if it's what Jake Tapper's saying, which is absurd, he has no business now writing a book and like trying to tell everybody else what we already knew, what we were already saying for years. Who wants to buy this book? All he's doing is talking about things that we were all talking about 5 years ago. I was doing videos about this stuff 5 years ago. And now he's writing a book. I'm going to have an embolism. I need to calm down.
I wish I had covered them much more. And I wish, I mean, of course, it's May 2025. Do I wish that in that 10, 15-minute interview I had with Biden in October 2022, that this had been the only subject? Because I had then
Well, it wasn't
what I know
just that,
now.
though, Jake. It wasn't just that. I mean, you sat with him a couple of times in the course of his presidency, and these issues
No, I
were not
didn't.
pressed. Well, there was
No,
at least that time,
I-
and then there was the time at the beginning. And
No.
But separate and apart from that,
but
you,
Megyn,
you
Megyn, hold on,
covered the
hold on.
Biden's
I sat
presidency.
with-
No. Let me just finish my point.
I'm
You
just saying
covered the
I had
Biden
one interview with him
presidency.
during his I had one
Okay,
interview
right.
with
And
him
it was
during the
13 days
presidency.
after the Jackie Walorski thing. But you covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seem to be running cover for the president.
Yes.
You
I don't
seem
think that's true.
interested. Well, I mean, we'll start with the Lara Trump issue that you referred. Here it is. This happened in 2020.
Joe Biden, as we all know, has worked to overcome a stutter. How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
Oh my God.
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You have
to
no
watch somebody on stage search for
that's so
questions.
amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I
a
think that you
stuttering.
were
I had
mocking
no
his stutter.
idea, Joe
Yeah,
Biden.
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that
Oh,
this
that's
could
rich.
be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely
you,
feel
Lara
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden at
I
times.
appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Lara Trump, thank you so much.
And I just want to remind everybody that Jake Tapper and CNN and all the rest have spent countless hours talking about Donald Trump's supposed cognitive decline. They spent years calling for his removal from office under the 25th Amendment because of a supposed cognitive decline. So that's rich as well.
Do you want to apologize to Lara Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but I thought the conversation went well. And she has said this publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were,
Why wouldn't you want to read a book by a guy who's just now figuring out that Joe Biden was having a cognitive now 5 years later, we all saw it in 2020 and 2019 even. People were talking about it. I was talking about it in 2021, 2020. But this hard-hitting news journalist who's just now figuring it out by his book.
I called Lara Trump and I said, you were right.
She was totally right. That's the thing, because when I watched that clip, and I'm giving voice to what a lot of people watching the show are feeling, Jake, I feel angry because she was right. And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was totally right.
Right, and that was the whole purpose of the propaganda campaign in general, like I said, was to demonize and discredit anybody who noticed Joe Biden's obvious mental decline.
And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length, including on page 4 of your book.
Yep.
You describe at length his cognitive decline, which is all she tried to do with you. But you had such a visceral reaction to her. And my feeling is that's because you didn't want to hear it.
No, I'm happy to talk about this. I didn't come here thinking that you weren't going to ask me about this. I'm happy to talk to you about it.
No, I know.
The first time I
know why
saw
you
the
came over.
coverage of Lara Trump's comments which were interpreted as her mocking Joe Biden's stutter, was in January 2020. I read it in conservative media. I read it in the Daily Mail.
First of all, it wasn't interpreted that way. It was just spun that way as cover, right?
And that's where I saw that her comments were being interpreted that way.
They weren't being interpreted that way,
those
honestly.
comments were publicized, it got a lot of coverage. And Sully Sullenberger wrote an op-ed in the New York Times criticizing her about this. So that's the context for that, that I was following up on a story that had been out there months before. This is also in the context of October 2020, a very intense time. People on the Biden side are saying crazy things about Trump. People on the Trump side are saying crazy things about Biden, including Don Jr. suggesting that Joe Biden is a pedophile. So that is the larger context. But as I said, her comments have aged well. My comments have aged poorly.
And I'm not following his excuse at all. Is anybody else following this bullshit? Not me.
Own that. But I think what is significant is, in addition to me owning that, the reporting that Alex and I have done, which is beyond just, and when I say just, I don't mean to diminish it, but the comments of Joe Biden making gaffes, saying things stupid, tripping, are all important and all deserved to be aired and all deserve scrutiny. But as you know, Megyn, because even though you look 30 years younger than me, we're roughly the same age, Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay?
I get what you're saying, but this minimizes it too, because it was more than saying stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down. It was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book, we knew and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter. And there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now, with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none. But you did. You did. And so while you've been in Washington 30 years, Jake, you guys, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no effort, none, to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this book, like there was a cover up. It's like there was a cover up and there was an attempted cover up. It could only ever work if you allowed it.
Exactly. Jake Tapper isn't fooling anybody. And I just love that he said, exactly. Jake Tapper isn't fooling anyone. And I love how near the end there, he talked about how he was owning the fact that he was wrong and everybody saying that he had Biden was having a mental decline was right. BS. You're not owning anything. You wrote a book, almost casting yourself as the victim and clearly trying to deflect blame to Democrats for tricking the media. I'm sorry. Nobody was tricked. You weren't tricked. You're lying now. You covered it up. We see through it. And you're now trying to hawk a book. I don't have any idea why he would ever go on to Megyn Kelly and think that people watching the show are going to go out there and buy that book now. Who in God's name would buy this book? I don't understand it. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments. And if you're still here, might as well hit that like button and subscribe. I do post on a regular basis, so make sure to keep checking back for more. Thanks a lot.